Cool. So let's actually make our particle sim now. And we are going to use these points directly as source volume from. I just also want to make some more particles flying out from this that we can combine with those to make one big happy family of particle sources. So we're going to make another simulation. So let's just plop down another .NET here. We'll call it, oh, I don't know, maybe particle sim. How does that sound? And let's make sure that it's the default, because it wasn't a second ago. The reason why that matters is when I go back to the shelf here in a minute, I'm going to want it to put the nodes in there and not put them into our rigid sim. Cool. So we still got this here. So I'm just going to go right over here to particles, and we'll say source particles. And now it built out our little simulation here. Pretty bare bones. It's got an object. It's got the solver. It's got a merge that we don't need. And it's got this. Great. And what is this? Well, this is a particle source. It's looking here. It's looking at the whole object, which I don't approve of. I would rather it look right at the source null itself. Just so, you know, in case we change what the output is later, we don't get screwed. And also, we don't need this merge. Great. So now, when we run the sim, it's going to throw a whole bunch of particles out. Boosh. Didn't do it, did it? The reason why I didn't do it is because, check this out. The emission type, scatter onto surfaces. We don't have surfaces. What we have is a bunch of points. Let's change this to all points. And now when we play it, how cool is that? Very cool. Now we see this ground plane from before. It's not actually in this sim. I'm actually going to hide other objects. There we go. That's more accurate to what we're getting. Now look how cool that looks. It's actually sourcing the color, which is fun to look at, I guess. But more importantly, we get these such nice shapes as a result of it coming right from those pieces and all that work that we put into it. So add to an inherited velocity. So it's basically taking the velocity, the v, the one that we messed with, multiplying it by 1, and then messing it up some more here. So I'm actually going to turn these off, and then you'll see it's going to look a lot tighter. Because now it's not varying the velocities further. Maybe we want that, maybe we don't. I'm going to keep this at 0 for now. But just know that that's there. It's basically just going to say, if you put this to 1, it's going to add a plus or minus 1 to whatever the incoming velocity is randomly. As far as I'm concerned, we'll take care of that ourselves from the source if we wanted to do that. So I don't usually set these, but it is here if you need it. Great. So we do probably want the collision with the ground, though. So I'm going to go back to the rigid sim. I'm going to go steal away this ground plane. Truth be told, you don't need this merge, and you definitely don't need this static solver. Static solver, fun fact, does nothing. Why does it come in automatically? I think it just makes people feel better. If you don't believe me, it literally does nothing. Cool. So let's just grab the ground plane, put it back here. I guess I'll put that merge back that I just deleted. Oops. And we'll have them affect each other. So now when I run it, boosh, now you can see it's a proper ground plane. It's nothing's going below it anymore. Now, we don't really need it to do all this craziness. I only just want these to be a very short-lived source. Oops, I meant to get gravity for that one. We want to be a very short-lived source for our volume. So let's see what we get from this. Boosh. So now it's flying up and flying down. Maybe you might want this. Maybe we'd want some of these particles for our final render. Maybe. For now, I'm just going to say let's just stick to using it as a source. So I'm going to have this have some less gravity just to cheat it a little bit. And more importantly, I want these to die out pretty fast. So life expectancy is at 100 right now. Let's have it last a really short amount of time. Let's just go with that, like 0.2 plus or minus 0.1. So now when we run it, it goes poosh. That's it. In fact, we probably don't even need this to go this long. Let's put this back to like 50 or something. So now we got, bam. Looks cool, doesn't it? Boosh. Pretty sweet. So it's using the points from the debris source, which are themselves based on the collision of the ridges on the ground. In this way, if you run like a new rigid simulator or animation changes in a production or whatever this is being based off of, the procedural nature of Houdini will just let you just load up that new sim or that new animation and then just go from there. Great. See, this 0.5 seconds is weirding me out still. I feel like the 0.5 seconds on the initial rigid source thing, or rather the initial particle source thing here, is too long. I'm going to change this to 0.2, and this is automatically, I'm going to cache this first. Great, it's insta-cache. And now remember, our wrangle here is looking at that lifespan, so we don't need to update anything else. It's all ready to go. See how much shorter that is now. In fact, I'm gonna reload that. There we go. Super short. Cool. So we've got particles. We've got our initial particles. Yeah, see how much faster that is now? Boosh, that's more like it. And maybe we can also watch our rigids. So now we've got these both together. So that's already looking pretty cool. Bam. Probably coming out too fast for that kind of impact. And this is the kinds of back and forth notes that you'll get either with yourself or with your supervisor or who knows what. But let's just go right here, say 0.5 instead. So now it's going to go not nearly as fast. That's cool. That's much better. Here's our result. We have particle source and source particles. Wonderful. I wish it was not called that, but there you go. So here it is importing from the simulation. I'm just going to call this particles out. This is where we'll cache it. We still have those funky colors, even though we don't really need it. We can always delete them if we want. Particle cache, and there you go. Once again, we know that we don't really need to go any further cache-wise than this. So really, we probably only need to go to 20. I put 50 anyway. Whatever. So there we go. Save the disk. Boom, boom. It doesn't look like it's doing anything, but it did it. It just literally wrote it that fast. It's just not that hard to do. And once again, I'm going to make our time shift. And the time shift is going to clamp to the last, and the last is whatever this was. And there you go. Great. So now we've got our particles here. And finally, we can get to combining them and making the actual volume source. Particles out.